Howdy folks, Rudros here, and welcome to another Lorcana Wednesday, and with the Azurite Sea upon us, I thought it would be a fun time to touch on some of the fun cards we've got coming out in this set. My good friend Dalton is here with me. He is a multi-time set championship winner for the past several sets of Lorcana, as well as making top 128 at Texas in DLC. Dalton, how are you, sir?
Doing good. Excited to talk about some new cards coming out.
Absolutely. So we're going to put it up front. We're not saying these are the best cards. What we're showing today are cards that we just think are interesting, could maybe mix up some decks, bring out some new deck types, could change the way maybe some of the ink combinations are played. So that doesn't mean they're necessarily good. A lot of these could crash and burn, but we're just going to give it a shot anyway. Dalton, you ready?
Yep.
Awesome. So first is Lilo. Definitely had to touch on her. She is a very unique effect to the game. I don't really like the way it's worded, because when I first saw this, dude, I thought it was infinite. I thought it was like, oh my gosh, she just plays herself every turn. What the heck? But I think even though it doesn't say it on there, I think you do still have to pay for her to come to the field.
Yeah, so I thought that too. I was like, oh my gosh, she just comes back every turn. This card's insane. But yeah, I think you technically can just play her, like you pay the 2 ink, so it essentially assures that you'll never have like a dead turn. If she's in your discard pile, you can always play her, which is awesome. But she is coming to the field exerted, so you could be just paying 2 ink every turn to have her die.
Yeah.
But I mean, at that point, isn't she just like a bodyguard? So
that's true. That's an interesting way to think about it. And you know, aggro's biggest weakness has always been running out of gas. So like you said, this says, well, I guess if you got nothing else to do, bring the Lilo out. But I do wonder if that'll even be worth it, because like you said, it's like she's probably just gonna die every time you bring her back.
Yeah, I think it'll have to kind of go into the fact with another card we're going to talk about here in a little bit, that if you could find a way to ready her constantly so she's not going to die right away, I think that's going to be where she really shines.
Yeah, good point. All right, next we're going to look at Chip and Dale, the combination Recovery Rangers. This is, I don't think you ever really want to pay 8 for this, but if you could shift this out on turn 5, and they have pretty good shift targets, the stats are great. It's a 6/6 that quests for 3. That's fantastic. And then anytime something goes into your inkwell, you can just bring back any character card to hand, which is, there's no restriction on that. Obviously, if you're playing this with a blue deck, you could potentially shift it and then use something like a quill to ink and immediately get that refund. So I like this card a lot. I think 8 is definitely going to be way too slow for it, but I think if you shift this, like, this could be really fun.
Yeah, I definitely think it belongs with blue for a shift 5. So what, you're getting this out on turn 4 and then you could also ink with that if you have a quill. So that's good. The stats are really good. It's out of Medusa range, which is like always a big check. Same with Brawl. I don't know why some of these like expensive cards, like last set, there was that 07 Jafar Challenger that just dies to a Brawl after you pay 7. So that feels pretty terrible, and that was a legendary. So this is a rare. It's got 6/6 and quest for 3. I definitely like the potential of this card. I definitely, like you said, I think it belongs with blue. But yeah.
Wow, that's huge. If you got it out on turn 4, like, nothing can really deal with a body like this that early. That'd be insane.
No, for sure.
So first, and this is going to be probably the only legendary we mentioned, just because, again, we're trying to look more at different and fun things, and I think most legendaries are kind of obvious what their power level is, but I do think this Simba is worth mentioning. You kind of mentioned him with the Lilo, which I didn't even think about till you had just said it, but yeah, this is perfect with the Lilo, that it just protects it right away, right? Similar to the last one, and I feel this way about a lot of the Floodborns, and this one very much reminds me of Robin Hood, in that I think if you just outright play this for 5, it's not very good, because then he doesn't do anything for a whole turn. But if you can shift this on maybe the bodyguard Simba, he already has good shift targets, and just instantly, like, you're protecting all your other stuff from being challenged, like, this has gotta be good in aggro, right?
For sure. I definitely think like it's meant to bring back in like the bodyguard Simba. The only issue I have is like you usually want to play that bodyguard Simba on turn, was it 2? And then he's bodyguard protecting all your 1-drops. But if you're playing that, like, you don't really want to risk that Simba dying, right? So like you may want to like leave him readied so he's not having the bodyguard, which is fine because he can still quest next turn when he shifts. But yeah, like the ability to ready cards like Lilo that comes back every turn, you like play him 3, say like next turn you had 2 Lilos that have died. You just like bring him back in. Obviously, you probably won't be playing Lilo that early because you'd have to play Simba on 2, but you'd be getting in like other 1-drops back and such. So I think it's definitely good. It quests for 2. It's got a 4/4 body, which is better than most things at that ink. The only thing that really takes it out is a Fox.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think the card's very decent for a 5, or sorry, for a shift 3. Like you said, at 5, I don't love it, especially that it has to sit there a whole turn to do nothing.
It's nice that it trades with the fox too. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
I just want to mention this one briefly. Naveen's ukulele. I don't think this card's actually great. However, someone pointed out that I think the one thing that could make this interesting is you can use it with the singer Ursula, the legendary one in Emerald, and she could then potentially double sing a song of cost 6 or less, which is kind of cool. Like, but the only problem with that is you're restricting it then to Emerald and Amber. So I don't know what song it is you're double singing for that amount. So I don't know. It just felt like worth mentioning just for that combo.
The two that I heard mentioned about this card that seemed the most busted to me is the fact that if you play this in purple yellow and you do like a Jafar list, you're losing Whole New World, but Jafar can technically sing Second Star to the Right by himself, the Floodborn one.
Oh, yeah.
So that's a 10 cost song he gets for 7, so you draw 5 cards, that's 5 lore. That's not bad. The other one that's probably the best is that you can have Kita, the 5-drop legendary, sing Under the Sea by herself.
Oh, yeah, wow. That's pretty
Which
good.
is crazy. That's a solo board wipe with one singer character, so... that's probably the scariest one I've heard, because green yellow is already good, and if Kita comes down with a shift and you pay 1 and then you scoop everything with just a Kita, yeah, I don't know.
That's pretty crazy. Yeah. Well, we'll see if that one sees any play. Finally, in Amber, going to touch on the Sugar Rush Speedway. So this one is weird because you definitely want to cheese it. You don't want to pay a total of 8 for this, 2 to get it down, plus 6 for the cost. But there are some neat cards like the Moana in red. There's some other ways to like just move stuff for free. And if you can move something here without paying 6, it's a huge payoff. 3 cards is so much like that. That's nearly half a hand refill. 3 lore is quite a lot too. So I would love to see some kind of location list abuse this. I don't know if that'll ultimately work out, but it just sounds really fun.
Yeah, I mean, I think red yellow is already in a like tough spot, but red is like all the free like location moving, like go the distance, like the Moana you said, stuff like that. So I think that this card definitely is going to fit into that niche. The only benefit is that red and yellow doesn't really have card draw besides Rapunzel, so this giving it a way to draw 3 cards without having to be linked to some sort of damage, and you get 3 lore. I definitely think it's worth looking at if you're playing a list similar to that.
Yeah, and in red you could use the Jim Hawkins too to move for free, and so that cuts off the cost as well. That's kind of nice.
For sure.
All right, well, that's going to wrap it up for Amber. Amethyst wasn't a whole lot that stood out to me. I did want to mention this White Rose. I did a deck tech on a Emerald Amethyst list that my girlfriend runs, and her whole point is just to try to cheese lore with cards like Bosses on a Roll, Gathering Knowledge of Wisdom, Goat. And this is essentially just a mini Goat. Obviously, Goat is just overall better because it's on entry and exit, but just having another way to cheese lore, and the stats are fine. Like, I've seen 3 costs with worse stats than this, so just it's something you can play. If you can't find the Goat, you can still bounce it to then replay, and you can ink it if you need to. So like, it's not amazing, but I like it for what it does.
No, not much to like really say about it. The card's good. Getting lore anytime for free is great. It will trade with most things around 3/4 drop. It'll trade into Goat, stuff like that with the 3/3 body. So yeah, it's a good card.
So this is the card I'm most excited for my Ruby Amethyst list. When all the new cards are coming out, this was the first card that I said, oh man, I am going to put that in my list, and this is this Diablo. It's essentially just Cusco for 1 cheaper, and the reason I've been off most of the 1 cost 2 drops lately, such as like Chernobog and Broom, is that if you're going against a steel deck, and they just hit you with Storm Rage on, Diablo Shift Storm, or Baby Cinderella Sing Storm, that card just dies before you get any value out of it. Whereas with this Diablo, that's kind of the benefit of Cusco, right? You put it out and just you start questing away, because who cares? Go ahead and waste a challenge or a removal on it, because I'm just then getting benefit afterwards. So I absolutely love this card. I'm 100% going to slot this in to my 1-drop slot in that list, and the only time I see it being bad is if you're going against aggro and you actually need something that can like hit another card, but I love this card.
Yeah, the card's very good. Anytime you get free card draw, and it's essentially a card that says you have to kill me, and if you kill it, you get a card back, which is awesome. It's replacing itself, which is good against discard. It's like the biggest issue that discard has against red-purple is that any card like Rabbit or this Diablo or that Cusco that refunds itself, you're not really like hitting their hand as much because they're still able to play stuff, still able to quest, and they're getting stuff back. So I think the card's very good. Like you said, the only issue is it has no attack. So against aggro, this card feels terrible.
Yeah.
They're not wanting to challenge you anyway, so they're not going to, and you're just gonna have a 0-1 on board trying to race them. So, but other than that, yeah, the card is definitely good. I think it's going to compete with all the other 1-drops. I don't think it's worse or better. And like you said, it still gets that value if it dies. So it's huge.
I love it. Going to touch on the 2 mill components in Amethyst, which is both the Mad Hatter himself, where is he? This 1 cost here, and then as well as his teapot. I don't know if a mill deck is I don't think we're going to be there yet, because these are still, it's 1 card at a time, and in a game with 60 card decks, that takes a long time. I think you're still going to have to combine it with Whole New World. That's like the most efficient way to churn someone through their deck, but it's just cool that it exists. Mad Hatter's just a card that you put him out as a 1-drop, and then he's going to mill them every time you quest for a 1-drop, and then the teapot as well. Just you can keep turning cards through their deck, so it's fun. I'm glad they're kind of at least adding cards that'll let you do that. I don't think it's quite there yet, but I'm glad they're here.
Yeah, I definitely don't mind it if his stats were a little better, or if he was a different like ink cost. I think that's like the biggest issue, is he's competing with all of those other, like the Diablo we just said, like a lot of other good 1-drops in purple already. If you hit like a great card, obviously you could high roll, get rid of Automatoa against red blue, awesome. But like if you're not hitting that, you're just ripping something useless, then he definitely doesn't feel as good. So yeah, I think it's a good idea. I'm glad they're trying something else, but I don't think it's there yet.
Yeah, before we move off of Amethyst, I'm actually gonna let you mention this Madam Mim really quick. What was the combo you had mentioned earlier with her? It was with the genie, right?
Yeah, so the 3-drop Madam Mim, truly marvelous. The pay 2, you can choose and discard a card, gain a lore. Again, any way to choose lore is always great in Lorcana. Getting ahead when your opponent can't stop you, that's awesome. 2/3 stats, it does die to brawl. It's not great in that sense, but it is a 3-drop. The one thing I did say is, like, technically a lot of people are down about the legendary genie, the one that lets you draw a card anytime you play a card. And then his downside being the fact that at the end of your turn you discard everything, or put them all to the bottom of your deck, sorry. So this Mim, essentially, if you had that genie on the field, you could just discard your whole hand anyway, gain lore for all those cards, and then genie's not going to rip anything, so he's still a big card. You're still going to draw cards when you play them. And if you draw a card that's kind of useless or an uninkable, you can always ditch it with Mim, get extra lore, just kind of speed your way up to 20 as fast as possible.
Yeah, that sounds fun. I'm curious to see how she'll do. She could be a sneaky one, or she could just be one of those, like, yeah, it's too much to invest in.
For sure.
All right, moving on to one of your favorite colors, emerald, and of course, have to mention Gogo Tomogo. Tomago is perhaps how it's said. And early, this doesn't do much because you're not going to be able to pay the kicker. I know you and I weren't very high on the kickers last set, but a card like Anna, I think, really changed our minds. But granted, Anna was very versatile. You could do the discard, you could do the banish. Gogo is a bit more locked in, but I'm not 100% sure what the best way to use this card is, but you really could just get a ton of lore out of nowhere if she comes down in the right situation.
For sure. I think you're looking, so this card's probably going to come in at 4. If you're looking at most of the Emerald Steel decks, for example, if you're dealing damage, like somebody shifts a Beast on 3 or something, or a Tinkerbell on 4, you get them up to 4 damage, play her on 4. Gain 4 lore. It feels pretty good for sure. She is evasive, so she can't really be hit. She can trade into Diablo, which is nice. Yeah, she's not terrible. I definitely think she's good, but I don't know how versatile she'll be. I don't know what deck she'll fit into. It would probably have to be green steel because you need some form of damage. But yeah.
I do like that she beats up on Diablo. I'm going to mention Fred. I like this guy a lot. He's a 1 cost, he's a 1/1, and if he's banished in a challenge, which is usually the most common way to banish cards at the 1-drop slot, you're going to gain 2 lore. So if he quests for 1 and then they challenge him right away, you're getting 3 out of him. I think that's really, really good for a 1-drop. The one downside, obviously, is it has to be a challenge. So if you're going against something like Steel or maybe Ruby Sapphire that's playing the baby Sisu, they can just dismiss him without that ever happening. So maybe he won't ultimately be worth it, but I don't know. I kind of like it.
I don't mind it in like a list like green purple where you're kind of just rushing lore, where you're playing aggro. Things like green steel, he's definitely useless. I mean, in my opinion, like I don't know what you'd cut for him.
Yeah.
I think that like you're not racing lore as much as you are controlling with green steel. But like green purple, I think he fits great in there. If you play another kind of aggro list, anything where you're just rushing lore, it's like similar to Baloo, right? Like you're playing a Baloo that's an 0/3 and you're fine with just him dying to gain 2 lore. And he's not even hitting back. At least Fred hits back, so yeah, I think he's worth testing on some of the lists for sure.
I was thinking of the green purple. This Daisy Duck, I don't know if she got revealed late or what, but I don't remember seeing her before. She seems like, so I don't really know what the pirate package is supposed to look like. We'll all have to test that. But she seems like she could be one of the payoffs for the pirates, because my big thing I kept thinking of is like, well, the Ruby Steel version had no card draw, but this one says you not only can you get one draw, you can get multiple. Now, granted, it's a big setup. You have to have pirates. They have to be at a location. But if you have 3 pirates quested at a location, that's 3 cards you draw. That's crazy strong. So I'm hoping she's the payoff I want her to be, but I guess that kind of just depends on pirates, period, right?
For sure. We definitely know that card draw is extremely strong in Lorcana. I think the biggest question is like what color combo does she go with and what location are you looking to put pirates at, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I know there's like the one that pirates can move to free or something like that. It's like the steel, or is that Jolly Roger?
The Jolly Roger, the Ruby one, yeah.
Okay, Ruby. So maybe red-green. I'm not really sure. You could go back to an invasive package or just like a pirate red-green. See what you could get with there. But yeah, I mean, drawing cards is going to be strong. You're just going to have to pay to get to the location, but Ruby has a way of cheesing that, which we talked about. So, could be good.
Absolutely. Once everyone knows how good the Basil can be, so I won't really touch on him. You wanted to mention Peter Pan. What do you love so much about this guy?
That's like the fact that he can like kind of turn off red-blue.
So it says while he's exerted, your opposing characters can't gain lore unless the number of characters or a character hasn't challenged. So that kind of turns off like red-blue in a way, right? Like they have to challenge with Tamatoa before they can use dime.
Yeah.
So they have to like go wide instead of just being able to sit there with a Tamatoa ready, gaining 7 lore a turn with dime. So that's super nice. Toa would hit into this, but it wouldn't kill him. So that's also very good. I don't know. I don't like that he's 7. It's going to be a very slow like build if you play him, probably green-blue to get to him. But yeah, I don't know. It's a different concept. It's a way to stop lore gain from items, which is what I know a lot of people have asked for. I don't know if green's the right color for it. But yeah, we'll have to see.
Yeah, 7 is very expensive, but he's interesting at least. Finally, an Emerald discards just... So this is Bend to My Will. So this one is very strange because in a normal like green steel discard deck, you don't need this. You're going to have their hand empty long before they get to turn 7. So it's kind of pointless there. However, some people have pointed out there are things like the Starlight Vial and Iago, and there are now granted, it's a very specific sequence of cards, but essentially you can play this card on turn 4 because all those cards like reduce your next action you can play. And if you can jam this out on turn 4 and just cut their hand to pieces at that point, that's going to feel brutal. But outside of that very specific like combination, I don't think you'll ever see this.
For sure. I think it's definitely like it would be in blue-green because you need to have the ramp and so on and so forth to get it out by 4.
Yeah, that's true.
The only thing is does blue-green want to play like a discard package? I know they went with like Clarabelle Cow and like ramp last set and is having card advantage.
Yeah, and that would kind of anti-synergize with the Clarabelle, right? Yeah.
So you'd like your Clarabelle would not be getting anything. So unless there's a blue-green list that's made around discard this next set, which it could happen. I'm not really sure. Maybe there's a different way to play it. You could go with like Inventors and ramp and stuff like that, and then also have discard. Because you have that honey lemon that discards as well. So it could be a thing. I am not really sure. Discarding your whole hand on turn 4 sounds crazy against certain lists. It gets around things like A Whole New World. They're forced to top deck depending on if they inked every turn. They're at max 4 ink. If they went first, if they went second, they could be on 3 ink and you rip their whole hand out. So that feels pretty freaking bad. So yeah, I think it's definitely a strong card. I just don't know where it belongs, but it's definitely not the normal typical green steel.
Yeah. Moving on to red, Mickey Mouse, again, with the pirate package, he just seems like a really good payoff for it. If you like a lot of these shift, if you can shift him on 3, a 4/4 quest for 2 on 3 is really, really strong. And then I just love his ability that you just want to quest with him, and then he's pumping everyone else up so that not only do they get to hit harder, they won't take any damage. So your pirates can freely swing into other characters. Plus, with cards like Jolly Roger, a lot of your pirates can get rushed anyway. He just seems like he seems like the offensive questing payoff for pirates if they end up being competitive.
For sure. He only targets one character when he quests, so he only gets one pirate to do it. But if you combine him with things like John Silver, who like whenever he quests can deal damage and ready somebody, and they can't quest again, but that means they can challenge. Mm-hmm. You can take out 2 things. The character will only take 1 damage from the John Silver, but take nothing because of Mickey, which seems pretty strong. But yeah, for sure.
And then we have to mention, of course, Vanellope. I'd kind of overlooked this card, but you had brought it up. Again, I don't know. It has the stats of a Simba on a cost 3. I don't love that. And then, so if you play her on 3, and then you need to get her to a location, so she's probably not going to pay off till turn 5. I don't really like that part unless you're playing her later in the game. But you pointed out, man, dude, could you imagine if you have this at a castle and you'd gain 3 lore and draw 2 cards just from her?
At the start of your turn, yeah. Feels pretty bad. It's like a card, like, you'd be fine with literally just letting her sit there, not questing at the castle, and gaining 3 lore every turn, and drawing 2 cards. They have to answer the castle, or they have to brawl her, which feels terrible. I think you definitely play her on 5, not on 3, because you're not going to want her to quest on 3. You have better cards in, like, Ruby Amethyst, for example, if you're talking about castle. So I think, like, what are you playing on turn 5 over this? Normally it's a Maui, I guess. So on turn 5, if you play her for 3, move her to the castle for 2. Or no, castle's only 1. But yeah, move her to 1. Move her to castle, and then maybe something else there. I think you're just looking at a ton of card draw and a lot of lore for free.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. So speaking of castle, I'm going to jump up to the islands I pulled from the sea. I don't actually like this card very much. However, my friend Justin from Locals, who I've had on the show before and who's made top 16 at the DLC in Vegas, he had mentioned specifically in the Ruby Amethyst package, normally what is your line is the Flynn, Sisu, into castle. And he pointed out, well, if you don't go Flynn to Sisu on turn 4, you can have the Sisu sing this, go get the castle, and then immediately play it. So I don't know.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know if that line alone is going to be worth running the card because it is uninkable, but that specific instance made me go, okay, I got to at least mention it.
That's for sure. I didn't realize it was a song. I thought it was just an action. But yeah, the fact that it's a song, if Sisu can sing it and then you go get castle or any other location that you need. I know a lot of people don't care for the card because it's uninkable, but like, what is that? Jim Hawkins' like ship, RLS Legacy.
Yeah,
that's
the
a
Legacy.
4-cost uninkable, but that's another 8 health that gets 2 lore. If you're just guaranteeing a 2 lore location with a ton of health on turn 4 every time,
yeah,
it does seem pretty strong. I don't know if you run 4 of this card because it is uninkable, like you said, but maybe just maybe like a 2 of to see how it goes, and then upping it from there.
And finally, everyone kind of knows about the big pirate shift Moana. That one's fun, but I actually wanted to talk about this 1-drop Moana. I think this might replace some of my 1-drops in Ruby Amethyst. It can't challenge, but it's a 3/2 stat line, so I think you're fine to just play this one, quest with it, and then say, all right, anything you run into this, she's going to counter kill it. Like, it kind of sucks it dies to Storm Rage on, but I don't know, it's very overstated, obviously, for being a 1-drop.
For sure. No, that card's good. I mean, like you said, if you're burning a Storm Rage on it, that's fine. It's no different than burning it on a card draw, like a Chernobog's Followers or something else.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you're like, again, if you're playing against aggro, yeah, you'd need a captain. That wouldn't feel as good. But if not, like, yeah, you're just guaranteeing a lore every turn, essentially, with this card until it dies. So, not bad.
Looking at Sapphire, there's a lot of obvious cards that people know are very strong, like Sail the Azurite Sea. I did want to mention this hero, Hamada, simply because of the way he works with Oswald the Lucky Rabbit. So you can pay 2, exert him, search your deck for an item or robot character, put it on top of your deck. So if you have him able to do that and Oswald on the field, you use the hero, and I think you can do this on turn 4. So if you go Oswald on 2, hero on 3, and then on turn 4, spend 2 ink, put the lucky dime right on top of your deck, and then you ink for your turn, and Oswald immediately plays it for free. That's pretty cool. Again, I don't know how likely that is, and we know Oswald is very fragile. He can kind of die to anything, but I just think that's a fun combo.
For sure. I think it's good. Both the cards can die to brawl, which feels bad, but if they're brawling those cards on turn 2 or 3, they have to have that exact answer. The other positive side is neither Oswald nor Hero has to exert for their ability. It's just like, Oswald's is whenever you ink. Heroes is just... Oh, sorry. I take that back. Heroes is you have to exert. I cannot see my screen, so... but still, he has a 0/3. He exerts. If you get a dime off that for free, though, and he does survive, I think that's worth it, even if he dies right away.
Yeah, that's huge.
But yeah.
Even something like a quill, like putting a quill into play for free, like, I don't think that's terrible. Speaking of items, I wanted to mention the Yokai Scientific Supervillain. I don't know how you're supposed to play this, because obviously you're loading your deck up with a bunch of microbots, which aren't technically like great cards on their own, but if you did combine this with something like Maurice's Workshop or the Maurice from set 1, where every time you play an item you draw, you could kind of just draw through your whole deck by just going microbot for free, draw over and over again.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, it's a fun concept, like you said. I don't know if it'll work. It has insane stats. But yeah, it could be cool. And then you could also draw even more, because if you're running Maurice and then he quests, and every microbot you're playing is reducing character's attack, and then every character that's 0 attack, you're going to get more cards. So yeah, it's definitely an interesting card. Might be a bit too much to pay, but we'll see.
Yeah. Finally wanted to mention the Rescue Rangers submarine here, which is at the start of your turn. If you have a character here, you can put the top card of your deck in your Inkwell face down and exerted, which is just kind of a fun alternative way to ramp. You probably won't see this. I think Blue has so many ways to ramp at this point. They don't necessarily need something like this. I kind of wish it just had one lure. Maybe they thought that'd be too strong. Like a 2-cost, 8 health location is insane. So if it was gaining lore, I guess they thought that'd be kind of nutty. But I don't know. I kind of love that. I don't know. It's just a fun card to help you ramp.
Yeah, I think the biggest issue is like you don't really get a benefit off it till turn 4.
Yeah.
Like, even if you play it on 2, you would have to move something there on 3, because you're giving up your ramp with like Tipo or One Jump Ahead or something. So you'd play it on 2, play something on 3, and then like have like a Tipo maybe, and then Ink, and then move him there, and then turn 4 you'll start ramping. Is that too slow? I don't really know, but I definitely like that it's an option. Like you said, if it had a lure, I think it'd be a lot better.
Yeah.
I don't think it's bad per se. It's something that definitely has to be answered. Otherwise, you're going to get out of control with Ink pretty quickly.
Yeah. Well, finally looking at Steel, Steck didn't get a ton of cards, but you had mentioned this Jim Hawkins, which I'd kind of overlooked. He's got this nice shift target here. And then here is the Floodborn version, similar to Robin Hood and Simba and all these other shift we've talked about. I think if you shift this guy in on 3, on turn 3, he's a 5/5 that quests for 2. That's an insane stat line on 3. And then he just does 1 damage to anything you want, whether it's a character or a location. Like, similar to all the others, I don't think you necessarily want to pay 5 for this. Even though still a 5/5 that quests for 2 that deals a damage, I don't actually think that's terrible. Of all the, like, pay outright the full cost, I'd more willing to pay this one. But man, if this guy comes in on 3, like, that's got to be scary.
Yeah, you could shift him in with Morph if you're playing a different version of Green Steel. You can ping a location and then attacks you. Essentially have 6 damage on a location guaranteed. So if you have 1 other damage, he takes out a castle on turn 3. Granted, they can't have castle out until turn 4.
Yeah.
But the fact that you can answer anything like that is pretty crazy. He combos well with like other cards with just needing to deal a damage. You could play him, ping a Tamatoa for 1, play an Ana. So you'd shift him for 3. On turn 8, if they play Tamatoa, you shift him for 3, ping Tamatoa for 1, pay 5 for Ana, kill a damaged character, takes out a Tamatoa. So I think there's definitely combos with him. I don't know how viable he'll actually be, but I definitely think he has potential.
Yeah, no, he's a fun one. Speaking of a fun one that's just very straightforward, where's our boy Gantu? Gantu. There he is. Yeah, there's nothing special about this. It's just great stats. And it's insane to me he quests for 4. That's such a high number.
Yeah, it's I think this is homage back to set 1 when the legendary Gantu was utter garbage.
Yeah.
And so they made this 5-drop rare one much better than the legendary just to give him a shot to see play.
Absolutely. We have Calhoun. It's uninkable, which kind of sucks, but it's a 2-cost, 3/2. That part's normal. What I find interesting is it has resist, so it won't die to something like Storm Rage on, which is very nice. And then if it banishes something, you gain 2 lore, which is really good. Plus, you could combine it with Rush, maybe like the purple Cogsworth, maybe something in red. So even in the late game, it kind of acts like a super goof in that sense, where you could just go, surprise, boom, I just got 2 lore out of nowhere. So seems just kind of like an overall standard good body.
Yep. Nothing else to really say about that. I mean, it trades into every 1-drop, really. It's like the same stats as your Moana that you were talking about. She's 1 ink more, but she's got the resist on top of it, and she has a better effect than that Moana. So
yeah, which is really nice.
I think it's definitely worth playing.
Kills Fox. That's always nice when it passes the Fox test. King Sensor Core, not quite the Queen Sensor Core. It's 1 more expensive, but it is an ongoing field effect, unlike the Queens, which only triggered if you had a character survive to the start of your turn. This is just blanket resist, which is pretty solid. Not many decks have ways to deal with items, and then it can search. I definitely want to make an all Royals deck with Steel and Amber. Just get the Queen and King Sensor Core. I don't know how good that will actually be, but it just seems like a fun concept.
For sure.
And finally in Steel, the last card we'll mention, and this is one you had wanted to talk about, is Twin Fire. So at its worst Baboom, right? Because it's the same cost, same amount of damage, and it's uninkable. But tell me why it's better than Baboom.
I just like the fact that you can essentially take out any small targets that you need. And then on top of that, it's kind of like those multi-effects that we were talking about. you may choose and discard a card to deal another 2 damage to a character. So if you have like card advantage like crazy, like you do in green steel, for example, or in blue steel, if you're running Whole New World with Iron Flaversham, you can ping something, discard an extra card you don't need, or an uninkable, ping another thing. So it's essentially 4. Its downfall is resist, obviously, because it's not actually 4 damage, it's 2 then 2. But you can take out 2 small targets. You can set up a better grab your swords. You can also, again, similar with that Ana, you can set up like a damage target on 2 things, prep to kill something, or with Tinkerbell. So I think it's just a good versatile card. I don't know if it'll actually see play since it is uninkable, and it's an action, not a song, but I definitely think it's worth seeing.
So maybe I'm confusing myself with the wording here. Can you hit the same character twice with this one, or does it have to be a different character?
I think you can hit... Yeah.
Because it's the word another is kind of throwing me off. Then you may choose and discard a card to deal 2 damage to another chosen character. Can that another be the same character you just picked?
It
doesn't say.
I would have to
it doesn't say like a different character, which is But I don't know.
So
I don't know.
I'm assuming you could choose the same one because it's saying like you could do it again to another character. You're like choosing a character, but I don't know. Because I think it's like basically saying you don't have to choose the same one. Like deal 2 damage to a chosen character, then to another you can do it. I don't know, but maybe it is saying you have to do different shots. It would match up with the artwork because they're shooting different directions.
Yeah.
But if that's the case, it would probably be a little weaker. Hard to say.
Well, we'll have to check on that one. All right, folks, those are just some of the cards we thought might be fun this set. Who knows if any of them will see play? Maybe they'll be incredible, maybe not. Dalton, thank you for joining me, sir. I appreciate you coming on and helping me out with this.
Yeah, no problem. Anytime.
Awesome. Well, folks, enjoy Azurite Sea. Let me know how your sealed events go. And let me know which cards did we not mention. Is there something we're sleeping on? Is there something other people are sleeping on that like, yo, this gopher right here in amber, that's the real star of the set? Let me know in the comments below. Always appreciate it. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already. It doesn't cost anything. Just a quick click of the button, and it really helps the channel out. I appreciate you watching. And until next time, take care.